Hi, everybody. Robin here. Welcome to Toadstool Tarot. I see SCB is here and Red Wing so far, waiting for a few more people to come in. Hope it's nice where you all are. It's a bright, warm, sunny day in New York. It's going to storm later. It's a little on the hot side, I think, which I'll find out as soon as I'm done and go out and about in it. So I see SCB has left a question for me, which I am going to answer, but I kind of want to wait a couple more minutes to see if anybody else pops in. Now, I wish I could do a screen share with you all because I ordered, you might get a kick out of this. Hey, Gerald. I might get I went on Amazon and I ordered a tarot t-shirt, which all of you might be intrigued by. It's just a black t-shirt with a big, image of the Fool from Rider-Waite-Smith. Beautiful, bright colors. And pretty cheap, too. I think it was about $16 and shipping. So, yeah, that should come in a couple of days. But I wish I could post or share it for you. I suppose I could share the link in case anybody wants to buy one, because you can get them in different colors too. They have black, sapphire blue, pink heather, olive heather, purple heather, red heather. What's with all the heather? And burgundy. So I'm going to put that in the, where am I? I'm going to put that in the chat. And you can check that out if you want. I hope this link, it's a real long link, so I don't know. I hope that works. So yeah, some of you might be, I think they also had one with the magician, but I wanted the Fool because I'm a big Fool, SCB, haven't had rain here in a month. Beautiful day in the UK. It's been raining for 3 days straight in Ohio, says Gerald. Okay, what time is it? It's 1:02. All right, if you guys have questions for me, please pop them into the chat. I didn't really have much of a plan for today. I did have one thing I wanted to discuss with you, but I was kind of leaving it open to questions. If anybody has any questions about me or my history or my views on tarot or anything. I'm not particularly inviting questions for readings, but I can do that. It's just that wasn't my intention when I said ask me anything. So let's see. Okay, so let's see. SCB, it's Lala, right? I think I'm remembering that right. I'm not sure. Hi, Robin. I'd love to ask you a question. Are you more open-minded now than you were when you were young? And if so, is tarot something that's played a part in that? I'm not so sure. I think maybe getting old has played a part in that. And you'd think you'd be more closed-minded as you get older. But I think as the decades go by, more stuff happens that we're exposed to, and you just sort of tend to be a little more open to it, or you close off, one or the other. But being part of this whole community, a lot of tarot reading is in, self-discovery, introspection, opening things up, and developing intuition, and the more variety that comes along, whereas you might say the government is shutting down all that, I guess I'm becoming more open to more variety and more alternatives and things like that. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. I do really depend a lot on tarot, and tarot is where I tend to turn when I have any kind of difficult issues that I need to talk to somebody about. I can just pull out a box of cards and have a look. Hey, Heather, welcome. Dulcie. Oh, SCB is Dulcie. Which one is Lala? See, that's why I get really confused in the labels when the names aren't in the labels. I've finally gotten to know the Indigo Jaguar is Heather, and I've always known that Gerald is Tarot Stash. Hi, Saskia. Okay, SCB. Dulcie, did you say? I have to scroll back again. Yeah. How you first came across the tarot? Okay. So when I turned 20 or thereabouts, I had a summer sublet, my first home away from home, in a quaint little sort of bohemian town called New Hope, Pennsylvania, along the Delaware. And it's just several blocks long, and it's mostly restaurants, nightclubs, boutiques, candle shops, stuff like that. And there was a little shop under the bridge called Now and Then. And this was, late 60s, early 70s, hippie era. So they sold, it was like a head shop, basically. So they sold pipes, paraphernalia, beaded curtains, black light posters, black lights, incense, and candles, and some tarot. But at the time, there was not that much tarot. There were maybe 2 or 3 decks. I think there was the JJ Swiss, the Etea, Grand Etea. I think the Rider-Waite-Smith was around then. And that might have been it. It really was not very much. But anyway, I went ahead and I bought a copy of the Grand Etea because I like the artwork in the majors. The minors are pippish, and in the end, I couldn't really read with it. But I thought the images were kind of alchemical engravings, and I sort of like that, the mystique of that. Hi, Rolf and L. Phillips. There's the Lala. And so anyway, I bought a copy. I think I did buy a copy eventually of the Rider-Waite-Smith, but probably not until the mid to late 70s or even into the 80s. And when I brought it home, I looked at the little white book, and it didn't make any sense to me because a lot of the keywords for cards seemed to be conflicting. I thought they should be synonyms, but they seemed almost like antonyms, or they didn't relate, and I couldn't figure it out. And I thought there must be a right way or a wrong way to reading tarot, but apparently I'm not getting it right. So I put it aside on the shelf, and about every 6 years or so, I'd keep coming back to it and try again, and pick up the little white book and be just as frustrated as I was the time before. And then sometime near the 90s, I think, I read somewhere, or read a line or two in the little white book, I think by A.E. White, that said that tarot is pictures and symbols. And I thought, well, if it relies just on the pictures and symbols, what do I need the little white book for? And sort of flung it aside and just started to read intuitively from the imagery. And the more people that I encountered and interacted with in books and so forth, the more I found that a lot of people have their own methods, different ways of reading tarot, and it's kind of wide open. Whatever method works for you, and that's great. And I've never approached it from the point of view of prediction. For me, it's more like guidance. So it's, like a visit to a gallery or something. You have pictures on the wall, you look at them, you interpret them through the body language, the colors, any symbols that are included. You figure out what are they trying to convey. And I did the same thing with the cards. So I didn't kind of really fully come back into it until around 2000 or a little bit later. And then about in the mid-teens, I discovered the Tarot Tube on YouTube. And that was mostly because I was interested in buying new decks. But, you couldn't see what was in the decks. They were all shrink wrapped in the shops, and they wouldn't let you open them. So I thought there's got to be some way to look at the cards before I buy, because I've spent lots of money on unseen and unheard things, and it didn't work out too well. Back in the old days when I collected vinyl, I would buy things a lot on cover art, or a review in a magazine or something, without really hearing it, or you heard one song on the radio and you really had no sense of what the rest of it was like. So you gambled, you spent your $4 or whatever, and you bought the album, got it home, and it was either a pleasant surprise, or more often than not, it was kind of a disappointing disaster. So anyway, off track a little bit. So I thought, well, there must be some way for me to get to see the cards, and I discovered a lot of channels did walkthroughs and flip-throughs, where you could quickly see each card before buying it in the shop or online. I thought, this is great. This is a great sort of public service for people interested in tarot. And I thought, I think I'd like to, return the favor and do that too. So I started doing it, mostly because the things that I liked were reviewed or flipped through by channels that weren't part of my immediate community. So I mostly don't do reviews of decks that I've seen other people do. My tastes are a little bit more eclectic than average, I'd say. And so I like to let people know what those decks are like. So that's kind of how it goes. And I kind of felt like was sort of providing a service. But at some point after I started the channel, I thought, I'm spending way too much money on new decks, and decks that I don't even particularly like, just to be able to do content for viewers. And my collection got a little out of control. So I think last time I counted, I was up to about 180 decks, and kind of stopped there because I don't have the real estate for it on my shelves. So periodically I will go through and weed out and get rid of some and acquire a few new ones. A place in Cambridge, Mass, Arsenic and Old Lace displayed tarot decks by putting about 6 cards from each deck in large photo albums. They closed in the 90s. I think that's great. The problem is, if you're like me, and even if you loved all 6 of those cards, you might come across a number of other cards in the deck you haven't seen that are game changers or deal breakers for you, that you wouldn't want the deck anyway because of the art on those cards. So yeah, you really kind of need to see them all, I think. You obviously love living in New York. How did you end up there? Well, I was born in Ohio, grew up in Pennsylvania. We moved there when I was in first grade, and I was there until college years, finished college, and then moved to New York. And I had no exposure to other gay people where I was in Pennsylvania, and really felt like, oh my God, I'm going to die here, or I better get out. And I did find a mentor who advised me. She said, you need to go to New York. You need to move to New York. There are gay people there. I thought, okay, let me check it out. And so I got here. I also wanted to pursue performance art, which I was studying fine art in college. And there was a burgeoning, is that the right word? Burgeoning art scene in New York that was sort of on the cutting edge. And I thought, well, let me go see what that's all about. So I came to New York basically to pursue my career in fine arts and meet other gay people. And that's kind of what happened back in the mid-70s. And the performance art movement the bottom kind of fell out of it within several years. And a lot of people in art were transitioning into music. So then I did the same and formed a couple of bands and performed at local places like Max's Kansas City and CBGB's, and then a whole run of second, third, fourth generation clubs that just kind of cropped up after that. Where in Ohio were you born? Dayton, Ohio. And it was within a mile or two of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where they supposedly housed the alien bodies. Just putting that out there. Saskia says, unfortunately, there are always a couple of cards in a deck I don't like. It was the best you could do before internet. Yeah. Amish country? No. I was in southeastern Pennsylvania. We were right across the river from Trenton, New Jersey. And it was sort of country. It was like suburban country kind of mix. There was a lot of farmland at the time and woodland area where I was. And it's pretty much stayed the same, although there's more development down there now than there was at the time. Amish country is way further west in Pennsylvania, I think, like Kutztown. Let's see, what else? The beard has an Amish vibe, maybe because I don't have a mustache. A lot of them have beards without mustaches. I tried growing a mustache. It was too itchy. I couldn't handle it. And I didn't have a beard for the longest time. And then I grew it. And at one point I got mugged. I got mugged. And then it seemed like when I grew a beard, it kind of kept people away from me. People tended to avoid me. I don't know what it is about beards. People see them and think, that's a mean guy or a gruff guy or somebody I don't want to mess with. And so it was a little bit of self-protection, I guess, but I just kind of kept it. Gerald, have you ever used tarot or cards to help you with creative projects? Well, that's a good question. I can't think of a specific instance, but, I consult them all the time if I need guidance. So if I'm having trouble in decision making, I'll look at the cards and see what they have to advise, and it adds perspectives that I, don't know. Hello, Iskander Time 747. I haven't seen you here before. I'm wondering if you saw the post on my Facebook page, because I don't usually post my tarot videos on that particular, on my page. I have a Toadstool Tarot page for that. But I thought, since I said ask me anything, there might be people asking about the music scene I was part of. So I'll post it on my regular page. And Iskander Time says, I know Robin best from his band DNA. So yeah, around 1976 or 7, I formed a band called DNA with Arto Lindsay and Ikue Mori, and we played at CBGB's and Max's. And we were part of the No Wave movement that was recorded by Brian Eno on that No New York compilation. New York has changed a lot since the 70s. Yeah, it has a lot. It was much more collaborative and experimental back in the 70s. And there were a lot of kind of bombed out buildings and streets. It was kind of a wreck. But it was a very creative wreck and very collaborative. And then it got really gentrified, and a lot of people that used to live over in Alphabet City on the bombed out streets and drug infested areas, which scared me to death, but they lived there. They would get cheap rent places and then skip out and rent. And I guess you can only do that so many times. And as things got gentrified and the rents got higher, they all left the city. So a lot of them moved to LA. I don't know how they manage that, since I can't imagine that's any cheaper out in LA than New York, but you never know. CBGB is cool. Yeah, it was fun. The evil eye beard. Sorry you got mugged. How scary. It's bizarre, actually. My roommate and I at the time, we went to a theater in Times Square, a dollar movie theater. And we went to see, thank God it's Friday. I don't know, it was like a disco era movie with Donna Summer, and I don't remember who else was in it. But we paid our dollar and we went into the theater, and the place was jam packed. You couldn't get a seat, and there were people standing in the aisles. And I thought, what the heck, you know? And so my friend or roommate started like weaving through the crowd, and I was trying to keep up with him. And some guy was grabbing at my sleeves, going, "Hey, check it out, check it out!" And he was like selling stolen watches or whatever, I don't know. But grabbed my arm, and I like yanked my arm away from him, and he took offense at that. And then before I knew it, there were like 5 or 6 guys all over the both of us, punching and tearing at us. And we scrambled out with torn clothing and bruises, and I went to the ticket person, the manager, and said, you know, we want our money back. And they didn't want to give it to us at first, and then they finally did. I was tempted to call the cops and say, you got to shut that place down. There's like, you know, there's not even seats in there. It's a mob in there, and there's violence. But I didn't say anything. But it seemed like after that happened, became like a magnet for hassles. I don't know what it was about my demeanor, but having been mugged, all these people, just homeless street people, came up and approached me and harassed me. And it's like, geez, what am I doing wrong? What body language am I conveying? I have no idea. And I think that's about the time I grew the beard. And that seemed to make a difference. I don't know why. I think beards project a father image that scares people subconsciously. Could be. Oh, I forgot to say hi, Maru. Do people know you have a Wikipedia page? I can link it if you want. I don't know if they do, but thank you, Gerald. You're welcome to. Yeah, that came about kind of by accident, because you can't create your own page. But I had a friend, a coworker friend, I think he was also in a band for a while, and he had a young friend from his hometown that he moved back to in upstate Massachusetts, who was a fan of mine, and got in touch by email and volunteered to create a Wikipedia page for me. And I said, great. So I supplied him with the information that he needed, and he put it together, and it's still there. It's great. He's moved a couple of times, and I have trouble keeping track of where he is or how to get in touch to update the page. But the last couple of years, I don't think I've done anything new that needs to be added to my page. So there's enough there. I would love to see a picture of you in your band days. Maybe I can find one I can put a link in, because I don't have anything that I can hold up to show you. Oops. Yeah, I type in DNA, and what I get is a bunch of spiral strand images. Okay. Well, here's one. This is a horrible picture, but I'll send you the link. Wait, can I do? Wait a minute. I'll get back there. I don't know how to get this picture enlarged. What am I doing here? Well, it's a Discogs list, and it's pretty tiny, but I'll post it here, and you can look. Let's see. Yeah, so there's a lot of information on the Wikipedia page. What are your thoughts on all of the tarot decks coming out, which seem to be on all sorts of random themes? I think I'm not a big fan of these fan decks. I think they're more like nostalgia or memorabilia. It's more a deck of art cards, for the fan base than it is a tarot deck. Sometimes they make them work so that it works with the tarot system, but they're not originally designed for that. And I don't know. I kind of think they need to be different. There need to be different things. They should just issue fan decks, and they should issue tarot decks, and I don't think they should cross the two. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer deck, do we really need that? I don't know, maybe Buffy fans do, but I think some of that stuff sort of distracts from the system. So it's fine, I guess, if you're a big fan, but let's see. Hello, Reaction King. Are you taking questions? I am taking questions, but I have a feeling that you're talking about reading questions. And this is more for people that mostly think they know me and want to know about my history or about my views on tarot. So I'm not really, there's a million channels that do readings, and I don't generally do that. If there's time later, maybe I'll throw in one or two, but that's not really the kind of questions I'm looking for today. Thanks, Heather. Let's see. Is that really you? You look so hip and cool. Well, everybody looked hip and cool in the 70s with that whole black t-shirt and leather era. Oh, thanks, Maru. Okay. My views on tarot. What do you think of runes in tarot? Well, there's so much diversity now in different systems and different modes of divination. And I think I've got my hands full plenty with, Rider-Waite-Smith cards. I don't really need to go into runes or pendulums or astrology or numerology or Kabbalah or what else is there? You name it, runes. Yeah, I have a set of runes somewhere. They didn't really work so well for me. So I think, if you really want to expand and get into a wider degree of divination, you might want to learn some of those other things. But I feel like I've got my hands plenty full with what I'm studying, that I'm pursuing tarot. Even when I have decks that have astrological signs and symbols and things on them that I don't even go into finding out what they are, how to work with those. I just work with the scenic pictures. And actually what kind of blew that wide open for me was when I saw Enrique Enriquez's movie Tarology, which I recommend if you go. I think you can get it on Amazon Prime and view it. And he's an artist and tarot scholar that lives in New York. And he only used Tarot de Marseille decks. Just a sec. But he is also an artist, and he used to wander around New York and look at different signs and symbols and just sort of make visual connections to the tarot, or he'd leave random cards at various locations, and just so people would become more aware of symbols around them and open up how to read tarot. And he sort of talked about open reading in tarot, which I love, and I've been kind of doing it ever since, which is when you lay out a spread of cards, you look at how they interact with one another, like which card is facing another card, what is the personality in the facial expressions, the body language, is someone turning their back on another card, are they gesturing friendly, is there violence or aggression in the cards, what kind of props or symbols are they pointing at or holding, or tools they're using, all those kind of things. You look at a card basically and say what's taking place visually in the card and how does it relate to the cards around it. And I've been pretty much using that since I discovered that movie. So I definitely recommend that. Tarology, watch it. It's highly entertaining. Let's see. Gerald is multitasking. My views on tarot. Oh my God, that's such a wide open question. Reaction King, welcome. Well, my views are probably different than a lot of people. A lot of people, I don't like when people call it fortune telling, although some people are fortune tellers. A lot of people do predictive readings. A lot of people rely on angels and spirit guides and all that stuff. And it's like, I'm not closed to that, but I have a more sort of psychological approach to it and more of like a self-help, self-guidance kind of thing. So that's I use that as a tool to sort of help guide me, like a little bit of a roadmap or a GPS. Is that the right initials? I think so. So yeah, like a guidance system. I consult cards every day to see, what are my better options for the day, or what's maybe not such an advantageous thing to pursue in this particular day, or is there better time for that kind of thing. And also I'm really kind of pushing the majors only decks, which a lot of people don't like, other than, maybe if you're living in France, they'll work with the majors in a Marseille deck and leave the minors aside. But I really enjoy, reading with the majors and find that there's a lot of depth in them. And what seemed originally very simple, the farther I go, the more complex the readings get and the more I find in these images. And I'm finding that if you have a full 78 card deck, it's almost easier to go like surface, what you initially see. Whereas if you're limited to 22, you need to know a little more about the archetype, and you need to like really sort of blank your mind out a little bit and meditate on the image to intuit what you can draw out of that particular card or archetype. I don't know. I'm finding, like, oddly, you'd think, well, simple set of 22 cards, you would run out of possibilities, but no, they just get deeper and deeper the further I go. Sweet pick, only the hair has changed. Yeah, I don't. If you have anything more specific you want to know, Reaction King, about views on tarot, put it in the question. I'm not quite sure where to go with that. Gerald, I know you like to do majors only readings. Have you ever tried minors only readings? I'm not sure. Well, actually, yes, I have, because what I've done, well, sort of. What I do sometimes I will read with a deck of playing cards, and playing cards basically are the minors only. They're lacking one of the court cards. They have Jack, Queen, and King, as opposed to Page, Knight, Queen, and King. So I kind of read the Jack as a combination of the Page and Knight, but I can read with a deck of playing cards without using the majors. I tend to sort of translate them into my head to the Rider-Waite-Smith system, but that's what I do. Could be a fun show. You read with the majors only, and I read with minors only. Yeah, or vice versa, Gerald. Let me challenge you. I'll read with the minors only, and you read with the majors only. I know you're not into that, but it might be fun to do sometime. Do you miss the music scene? No. It's not the same music scene as it was. The clubs seem to be, after many generations, they've all moved out to Brooklyn. I don't seem to be many clubs to play at anymore. I think even back in the 80s, you had bands spawning other bands and clubs spawning other clubs, and it got a little bit out of control. And it wasn't as special anymore as like when you had 2 or 3 clubs and then maybe a dozen bands or 15 bands. It was really special. And then about 1980 or late 70s, you started to have all these second, third, fourth generations of bands and clubs popping open, and it was more than anybody could afford or see. So it just kind of lost a sort of a specialness. And then also when things, well, it wasn't so bad, I don't think, when things went from vinyl to cassette to CDs. A lot of people hated CDs. I loved them. But when it went to streaming around 2000, it felt to me like the whole industry just kind of changed. And I lost a lot of interest at the time. And now I don't follow any bands or anything. I don't know how to keep up with them. The only ones I see or hear about is like on the news or on YouTube. And they're, this whole gig this whole thing that kind of came out of MTV and self-promotion and, music videos and stuff. And I don't know. It's just, and now it's an American Idol. Now it's so formalized that it just doesn't seem very special anymore, very unique or individual. I guess there are still like alternative bands, and there was kind of a folk psych resurgence movement in the early 2000s, but I don't even know how you get access to those bands and those people. They seem to be like, you have to kind of be in the know or something. And I don't know. I'm not in the know. That could be, okay. Deal. Gerald, are you inviting me over, or you're coming over to my channel? I don't know. Well, we'll work it out. I like that idea, Tarot Stash. Yes, the majors and minors combo. The music scene is so over, says L. Phillips. For some it is, for some it isn't. I think it's a shame in a way that the younger generation, boy, that makes me sound old. The younger generation now doesn't have exposure to a wide variety of things that we did before, because they only get, the stuff that gets TikTok hits or whatever. I don't know. Is even TikTok still around? I don't know. Well, I must have a lot of old people here in the chat because they agree that the music scene's over. Breakfast Club spawned Madonna. Have you had any negative encounters when using tarot, like creepy things happen? That was my topic I was going to bring up for you today. Okay, this is a little bit of participation from all of you readers out there. I have a friend recently who has become totally distraught. He reads tarot, but he's kind of a newbie. And over the last week and a half, he asked me about it. He says, what does it mean when I keep getting the death card as my first card? He goes, it's little upsetting. And it would be upsetting because it initially seems like such a negative card. And I didn't quite know what to tell him. I think it depends a lot on what the spread is, what the other cards are, what the context of the card is. But you kind of need to and it comes up first card every time and over again. I guess I would say, well, it's in the major arcana, so it's something of major importance. Your attention is being called to the death card for focus. The fact that it's the first card of your spread is even more important. And why does it keep coming up again and again? I don't know, but maybe it's something you really need to focus on and pay attention to. Now, how it's read, long gone are the days that the death card is interpreted as death or disaster or anything. These days, mostly it's transformation or an ending and a new beginning. And so I tended to look at it as either stop or change, but I wasn't quite sure. Now, he's got a lot of things going on in his life, so it might mean pay attention to the opportunities that are coming up that you need to change where you were into where you're going, what you want, what kind of transformation do you want to make. But I even reached out to some of you know Paris de Bono, of the Fortune Teller Shop. He has a channel online, and he calls himself a fortune teller, and he considers his readings predictive. But he's got a Facebook page called Tarot, and I did a post on there, and I said, everybody, please tell me, what does it mean, or what do you think it means or says if you get the death card as your opening card in a spread over and over again over the course of a week and a half? And Paris's answer to me was stop! Exclamation point. Well, that's not particularly helpful. Stop what in relation to what? I don't know. And also, I don't know whether really, I mean, I could say stop what you're doing, but if he's doing a number of things, how does he know what to stop? Stop everything? And also for me, if I look at the majors, I tend to look more at the Hanged Man as stop or pause to consider, than death card. The death card is more like stop permanently, end that, and then move on to something new. So I think that's kind of like, that feels more like change or transformation to me than stop. And it's a heavy card to read if you read it in a heavy context. So I was trying to find a diplomatic way to tell him, I think this means that there's a lot of changes going on, and you need to be more open and aware to opportunities coming your way and possibility of change, and being able to determine where you want to go with that, what kinds of changes you want to make or are willing to deal with. Let's see. So negative encounters when using tarot, creepy things. I haven't had creepy things happen because I don't look for them anymore. The cards that used to present problems for me were the Death card, the Tower, and the Devil. And the Tower was the worst for me because it felt like a victim card, like unexpected, horrible things are going to happen, and you just have to suffer and deal with it. Then I saw a deck that had viewed it in a different way. The Everyday Witch has a witch with her wand aimed at a tower that has collapsed, and she's got this sly grin on her face, like saying, see, I did that. And for me, that took the power away from fate or randomness and took the power back to a personal thing. I thought, okay, it's exchange. It's change, but it's unexpected change, which can either happen to you from external means, like you're walking down the sidewalk, you step on a crack or a raised bit and you trip and, skin your knees, whatever. Okay, that's a tower thing. Or you shake things up. Your life is too stagnant, and you make the changes yourself in order to change and move on. So that's kind of a more positive way of reading what's initially seemingly a negative card. L. Phillips used to be a booking agent. Where was that at, I wonder? Okay, we'll figure out the details. Manufactured musicians can't read or play music, they're hires. Hey, Will, good morning. A definite rebirth or ending, says Heather. Hello, Jan3D0384. Welcome. Maybe he's holding on to something he still believes in that's not allowing him to grow. And tarot, just a wild guess. Yeah, that's a possibility. A friend and me, when I read tarot, ask a question. To whom is the question asked? From whence does the answer come? What is the guiding force? Well, I think that's an interesting mystery. And a week or two ago, I recommended checking out a podcast on YouTube called Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. And a lot of you remember Mayim Bialik from Blossom or The Big Bang Theory. She, for the past 4 years or so, has been doing this podcast. And this year, it's usually on mental health, but this year she seems to be focusing more on esoteric things and alternatives. And she had this guy on there named Thomas Campbell, who wrote a book I recommend called My Big Toe, and the toe stands for Theory of Everything, My Big Theory of Everything. And he's discussed some really interesting things recently about how everything that exists is energy. And I think we all kind of know that now. If you look at everything under a microscope to the smallest magnification or largest magnification, you see everything is molecules jumping around and atoms and whatnot. So we're all energy organized in certain patterns. And he made a comparison to the movie The Matrix, where it's like we're living in a digital universe and all the energy is aligned in certain numerical patterns or whatever. And we don't really know how that is caused. But his thing about, he touched on the idea of getting information. People talk about getting information from the Akashic records or from spirit guides or whatever. Or how do you get the information from tarot that's synchronous, that, does end up being predictive, even though that's not what you plan. He says that the answers are all in the code all around us. And that as you develop more and more of your intuition, you're able to connect with the answers you need to your question through the energy that's already there in the patterns, which is a really bizarre way of looking at existence. But definitely check out that podcast and give it a listen. I think it's in 2 parts. It's totally fascinating. And you might want to read his book. Actually, it's a 3-volume book, and I'm just going through the first volume now. I like Paris's decks. I've been on the fence about the Golden Sky. Not sure. I think I might have that one. It looks a little bit like was it the Gold Tarot? I can't remember. There's a kind of a matte coloring one with like odd bright colors I think it was called the Gold Tarot. It's out of print now. And it's very much like, if you go through my channel, you could see a walkthrough, but you have to dig back pretty far to find it. So when we read tarot, who or what are we asking the question, and who or what is answering? I think we're asking our own intuition or our own subconscious. And I like, when I read for other people, to have a dialogue with them to get more information about clarifying the context for the question, where they're coming from, if there's any synchronous connections there that's like, oh, that symbol or that idea reminds me of such and such that's going on in my life right now. Well, let's zoom in and focus on that. Maybe that's where we are being directed. But I do love the fact that it's all kind of a big mystery, and there is a whole woo-woo pattern to it or effect that I think is interesting to delve into. Uh, Hello, Marilyn. Marilyn's Tarot Take. Welcome. Uh, that's the great thing about this. If you're late, you can always watch it back later. These are on YouTube forever, I guess. Orphanage, he's not meditating for a good amount of time before he reads. Huh? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Your friend that you read with? Not meditating for. I don't think it's. Some people do that. Some people do a lot of meditation. Some people claim to be connecting with guides. I don't know that it matters so much. I think it's more, for me, it's more important when the images come up, how you translate. It's like language learning, how you translate the images into something that's workable. So I don't know that meditating helps. I got great advice actually from oh my goodness, what is her name? Oh my God, Gerald, you remember who did we study? Who did we study Lenormand with? Kelly Fitzgerald. Okay. Kelly Fitzgerald has a channel, and now I've forgotten the name of her channel, but somebody will pop it in. At one point, I went to her channel, and I said, I'm still new to tarot, but I don't know. How do I know when I've shuffled the cards enough to do a reading, or if I'm consciously stopping at the wrong time and getting the wrong cards? How do I know I'm getting the right cards or the cards that are intended? And she said something very wise, I thought. She said, every card in the deck has something to say about the question at hand. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. So it's not a matter of getting the right or wrong card. It's how you deal with the information that card prompts in you and what you can pull out of that. So there you go. Whether you meditate or not. I usually just sort of, I do try to put some intention in it when I'm shuffling and ask the question a couple times out loud or in my mind to like focus. This is what I'm looking for. But my sense is whatever intelligence or whatever's out there that I'm connecting with already knows what I'm meditating on or the question I'm looking for. The only time you get weird responses is like if your mind's a total blank and you just pull cards. But usually then the cards give you a message anyway. It's just not directed to your question because you didn't clarify a question. So when those come up, it's sort of like, what information do I need to know today? It's like somebody telling you, well, focus on this or look at this or figure this out. And that's fun too. The repeated death card for the first card. Stop doing the readings like you're doing them. Do something different or ask a different question. That's interesting, Gerald. I'll pass that on. Let's see. L. Phillips, the Rathskeller Channel Middle East clubs around Boston. Oh, cool. You don't book them anymore, right? I might know somebody that might want to tour Boston if you let me know. Fascinating. What is that podcast called? It's Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. Wait, I might be able to actually. Oh, it's on my Facebook, Toadstool Tarot Facebook page. There's a link to that actual program. So if you have Facebook, you might want to go to that, or you might just Google Mayim Bialik, Mayim Bialik, and it'll say Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. And check out her channel. She also had Deepak Chopra on a few months ago, and that was a really good one too. Like a gold small hoi polloi. Yeah. I have that one. And I have a walkthrough of it on my channel, so you can look at that if you want to see it all. It's not as cleanly done as, say, Brandt's Moonchild Tarot of the Hoi Polloi. The colors are kind of interesting. Some of the colors are not in a palette I like, but most of them are. And it's a nice size, bridge size deck. So it's a fun, small size deck to handle. One thing I don't like about Paris de Bono's decks, though, is I think all or most of them have his brand stamp on the back, the fortune teller's shop or something, which I'm not keen when people like push text or when they put copyrights on cards or they put labels or things on them. I don't, brand names, I don't really like that so much. I like it to be all images. Let's see. Humans have developed the senses we've needed to survive, but there's so much we can't see. Birds can see the electromagnetic field. We can't, but it's there, simplifying it. But there you go. Exactly. Yeah, different animals, insects, whatever, see different wavelengths of light. They hear different things. They smell different things. It's like we're supposed to be the most intelligent, beings on the planet, and we're limited by so much that we don't have access to. What advice would you give to someone who wants to read for others but has not started yet? I would say if you can read for yourself, that's one thing. And then I would say try to hook up with a couple other people who are in a similar position, like early readers, and do a video call, group call with them, or a Zoom room or something, and have play dates reading for each other. And you can practice that way. I love doing that. You learn more, you get insights from other people, different ways of interpreting or reading cards. So it's like, 3 or 5 people you'll get on a Zoom room and someone will read their cards, and then after they've had their chance, other people can chime in and add their additional perspectives. And it's great way to learn, and a great way to practice reading for yourself or for others. I had a little group like that for a while. At the moment, I have a tarot class, but I only have one student in it. So, and we basically do that. We'll meet and practice readings for each other. Gerald put in the link for Kelly at Truth and Story. That's her channel. Hello, Elspeth. And Timmy Raven, I think you're new. Have you considered an alternative interpretive structure for the Marseille Tarot? I see a duality pattern that has been working for me. I cannot find a history of these 10 dualities. I'm not sure what you mean by dualities, but whatever you find that works for you, great. I don't use Marseille much, and a lot of people, when they do, they kind of default to numerology and the 4 elements, which I will do, but I'm not that big on numerology. I tend more often than not to just translate the pip cards into the scenic rider weight. It's much faster for me to read that way. Let's see. Will, I would like to stay reading for others. Thanks. Or study reading for others. It was the 90s. I'm in bed by midnight these days. Yeah. Well, L. Phillips, we need more people like you booking interesting people. My goodness, so many people are coming in so late and staying, and questions. Nothing so strange. Hi, all late, and looks like I have missed a good chat. I'll have to catch up with the recording. I can still get gigs for your friends, Robin. Oh, well, that's good to know. You don't have any New York connections, I don't suppose, though, just Boston, right? Let's see. Great advice. Thank you so much. Reading for others is a goal of mine. Is there something new you'd still like to pursue? I'm pretty busy at the moment. I'm happily doing. I still do music, but you can't really call it that. I don't think. I kind of doodle around on acoustic instruments around my bed, and it's more like sound therapy in a way than it is making songs. Or so I do kind of rehearse or practice some of my handful of my old tunes. I don't know why. It's not like I will ever play them anywhere for anybody, but you never know. But yeah, I like to sort of meditate while playing, just sort of improvising on instruments. I am involved in and host a couple of creative writing groups, and that's fun to play with writing creatively. And I host a internet radio show on Monday nights called The Dark Day Escape Pod at luxuriamusic.com. It airs Eastern Time, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Monday nights. And it's made up of, I do my playlists by word searches and titles. Like I'll pick a theme like new. It's like every song that has the word new in the title, I'll collate them into a playlist. And they can span anywhere from the 1920s to today. So I'm sort of hopscotching and skipping and jumping the decades back and forth. And it's a lot of fun. And people seem to like it. The ones I've heard respond about it. So anyway, those things keep me busy enough. Have to go. Great conversations today. Bye, Heather. Thanks for stopping by. Kelly has a good Kipper master method video. Wish Robin would turn those frozen Charlottes into a Kipper deck. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe at some point. I will do another deck at some point. I'm right now. My first one was so simplistic, and I would like to make art again with drawing and painting. So at some point, I will try to reapproach a new deck, whether it's a majors or a full deck. But I haven't quite gotten around to how I want it to be different yet. I like the question answer format. Oh, thanks, Will. Timmy, for instance, card 5, Hierophant versus card 6, the Lovers. This is the duality of relationships. Spiritual love versus physical love. The balance point between these two indicate the divine path of balance. Yeah, well, there are a lot of cards, even in the major arcana in the 22, that seem to be parallels or relate to one another. And that jumps out more and more as you use just the 22. I think you notice some are, there are a couple of cards that could answer a question, but one is a little more accurate than the other. Like I mentioned earlier, Death and the Hanged Man, both of them are sort of stop, but the Death is more stop and change, and the Hanged Man is pause and reconsider a different perspective, which is very similar, but not quite. There's some subtle differences there. Listen, guys, this has been fun. I've been on here over an hour. It's 2:04 now, so I'm going to run and let you all go. And thank you so much for all your questions and comments and for tuning in. And I'll be back again next week. And if you have any additional questions you think of, you want to pop into the comments, do, and I'll make a note of it for a future one. Gerald's going to message me. Good. Okay. More you talk about how you're using only the major arcana at the moment. You're making it interesting. I actually need to locate more people that are into majors I can have a conversation with, because I did talk a little bit about it with Julie Peekaboo Rose a few Saturdays ago, but she's not primarily a majors. She doesn't primarily embrace majors. And I really want to talk to somebody about that. So if you know of any other hosts or channel people that are into that, readers, send them my way or refer them to me or something. It would be great to have a conversation like that. I might even have back, what's her name? Tarot Shrink, Natalia. I don't know that she uses specifically majors only decks, but she's a psychologist. We had a really deep conversation about tarot a couple of years ago, and I think she could bring a lot of light on the major arcana. So let's do that. Camellia Elias is into majors. Okay, good to know. Gonna give it a try. Think I could learn a lot. She's a fun interview. I do use majors only for my personal readings, but I'm a newbie. Cool, Marilyn. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks. So long.